Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with the Road to 56 mod. We're taking a look at that, see how well it's working out, see what it's like. So, hope you'll come along on the journey with me. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And you can also hit that like button if you want to do me a favor. Let's YouTube know how great I am. No, but just let them know what you like seeing. Get some long-range fighters into production. Tanatuva is gone. Not that we ever knew it was really there, but it's gone now. I'm making some 110s. Aren't I? Isn't that what? Yeah. Heavy fighters. Oh, you mean... Well, I don't know. Make a special version of it? I don't know. We're just getting it in production. I'm used to playing Black Ice, which are sort of locked down in their version types. So I'll think about that. But right now we just got them in production. The right ascendant in France, okay. Okay. And we're combining that. Purge political opponents. Expand military infantry. Okay, well, to get that we have to purge political opponents. Fairly soon, probably. Demand the Sudeten land. Czechoslovakia's. Why did they issue partial military mobilization? I haven't threatened them yet. Or did it know what we were talking about? Oh my god, does the computer... Is Skynet active? Okay, let's spend some of our political power here. Let's come in and edit this unit here. Let's put in a couple of more Jaeger battalions. Let's come in for support artillery, for reconnaissance. and I guess engineers. And anti-tank. We can afford that because we have nobody doing it. Okay, so now we have a light Jaeger division. Let's train a couple, two of them. Yeah, they probably are. Tell you the truth, I fear Google much more than I fear China right now, at least personally. Because Google listens to me. When I post something up on Google, they listen to me. They got little bots that they listen to everything said on their YouTube channel. Well, China just took out Japan's ally of Mongolia, Manchukuo. Oh, China, how is your menu today? Okay, let's stop the trade for rubber now. Let's go to a -1. Well, what do we need now? Well, I guess field pull outside. Build some radars. Well, not until 39. Better to expand. Consumer goods down 5%. Yes, we'll like that. Better to expand the factories now and build the radar a little bit later, because we don't need it now, but we need more production now. Well, we could do paratroopers. Oh, we have a lot of political power. Yeah, we should be using that. Okay. Chief of the Army. We'll do training time reduction for now. Chief of the Navy, capital ship screen, convoy rating efficiency. We'll try that. Ground support or Dishonor was a bad general. Wasn't a bad military thinker, but he's the type of guy you make a military police officer. No, we need to complete Blitzkrieg tactics first. Well, we'll do Goring. Okay, well, so I guess we could either do specialized engineering or resource efficiency gain construction speed. What do I have to choose? What do I have to choose? Those don't seem necessarily mutually exclusive. I mean, the idea between like fast light armor or slow heavy armor kind of thing, that's a, you know, if you're going binary choice type thing. But Manchukuo now. Oh man. What was this about China always losing, Ari, if you're still out there? You said something about China always losing. I'm not saying they're going to win, but we better withdraw our advisors, or will get China overrunning Japan pretty soon. Just be a lack of navy that keeps them from taking China. Now they may still lose because Japan may be able to push in here, but well, we may start losing our view in here because our attaches are coming home or something. I don't know. Thought we got them to come home. Okay, now let's come back to here. Infantry division. Add an artillery unit here. Okay, that isn't that number. It's what's available. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. And support anti-tank. Okay, we got enough of that, so we'll do that. Don't have enough artillery, but we can make more. Yeah, I guess so. I think that's an exclusively a British breakfast cereal. Don't think I've ever had it, but I remember seeing it in the store or something, Weetabix. Hello, Prusano. Well, we're not in the war yet, but the war in China goes sort of badly for the Japanese right now, and the Manchurians. We're just sort of watching that from the sidelines. Okay, I don't know that this is enough, but let's build some more. Military factories. Okay, we're getting military police because we are going to occupy people. Defense, max entrenchment. Harder to. I'd rather be on the offense, so I'm going to go this way instead of what Romania's doing. Now, as Romania, I can see a defensive battle would be more useful, but. Okay, so we've expanded our military industries. Recruitable population, yeah, but that's not. Lebensraum. Well, it's a little early, but it starts opening up some other elements, so. Well, overall, I plan on crushing Poland, letting the Soviet Union have its part, crush Belgium, Netherlands, and France. And then I plan on focusing on the Mediterranean and securing at least most of that. I don't know if we'll get Gibraltar, but at least the central and eastern Mediterranean. And then the general plan is a 42 attack on the Soviet Union. I guess in broad strokes, that's my general normal sort of strategy. Persia denies British access. Early in the movement stated that the Iranian people will not accept the unreasonable demands of the British that Iranian land will not host foreign entities. I don't know about this, if this is something historical from this time period. I know Britain takes territory or occupies Iran along with the Soviet Union during the war, eventually, but after the Americans are in it. Munich Conference. This is a historic day for Germany. Okay, very good. So now we've taken out the main defenses of Czechoslovakia, and now's the time for the German to invade, modernize Poland, anti-Comintern pack. We'll do that now. I should have done that earlier. Well, this is just 7 days. Is part of the reason why I took it, and we wanted to get the effects from that. We don't need to reassert Eastern claims yet. I do think that's where we want to go, but I'm looking around. Yeah. Military advisors recalled. Okay. So we agreed to that before. So if it finally happened, we'll probably be losing our... Yeah, I'm still wondering where the thing that the Chinese always lose. Invade Czechoslovakia soon. It's already, I guess, in 39, so now's the time that it happened. And part of what I hope we're doing by letting this happen here is Unknown focus. Well, we don't know what focus. But hopefully they've built themselves up to a strong state and we can take it over. Well, now that it's 39, it is time to do these. Oh, I thought we already removed him. Well, okay, we'll get another recall event. This mod definitely gives us a lot more political power than I'm used to. Why is enforced patriarchy reducing consumer goods? I don't get that. And traditional rule is reduced where limited rights, this is for status of women, consumer goods are added to it. And total equality. I don't get that. That's not a picture of Frick. Why don't they put a picture of Frick for Frick? Well, I don't know. I got the knitting thing. I just will do the west wall now. Now's the time. Now's the hour. Now I think is also the time to start looking at things like radar. Because I would think the more equality for the women, the more productive they are. So they would be producing more consumer goods so that men don't have to produce consumer goods, and they could either join the military, so larger recruiting population, or work in armaments factories and other heavy industry. Because look, to this day, I doubt the number of women working in steel mills, you know, now as an accountant or some other type job, yeah. But I think the sort of heavy lift work in steel mills and things, I don't think many women do that work. Now I know there's a lot of machine automation, you know, machine help and whatever, but still, I don't think there's a lot of women in steel mills to this day. Oh yes, Persania, or sorry, I'm butchering your name. Um, he very much did. Hitler never banned women out of the workforce, but there was a shift from Weimar Germany when more women were in the workforce to have women not so much at home knitting, but really wanted the population growth. And he was looking longer term than what turned out to be World War II. And so he really, really pushed the idea of child rearing for women. Now, that doesn't mean he thought women were incapable or shouldn't do things, because he was very supportive of women like Hannah Reich, who was a test pilot, gets some medals for that. Basically, an unofficial member of the Luftwaffe, and treated as such by the Luftwaffe. I don't think she ever flew combat missions, but she flew a lot of military test missions, you know, testing out military aircraft and things like that. Very supportive of Leni Riefenstahl and being a filmmaker. Goebbels did not like Leni Riefenstahl and did not like Leni Riefenstahl's work, and definitely wanted to suppress it, but Hitler supported her and allowed her to do those kind of things. Yes, right. Iron Cross, but also um, another award too as well, Hannah Reich. So, and of course those were remarkable women, and everybody, you know, would agree that both of, you know, Leni Riefenstahl was a remarkable artist. Hannah Reich was a remarkable pilot. I mean, you know, above and beyond not just average women, but above and beyond average people. So, yeah. And so he wasn't, and then of course, as the war goes on, and the needs of the emergency of the war, there's a lot of women were coming into the various defense industries where they can work, you know, where their body strength. Because of course there are a few, and I don't know how many back then, probably very few women that, you know, lift heavy weights, and there's still to this day very few women that lift heavy weights, and those that do, you know, whether they're bodybuilders or weight, you know, power lifter women or whatever, yeah, they're going to be strong. But 90% of the women are just not going to have the body strength to do the heavy work. So they got to, as we can see in the war work, and like in Britain, there was a whole category of women who cut down trees and would go through the forest, mark trees, and they'd cut them down. But it would take, I don't know the number, but significantly more women to do the job than the men would do, just because to live, you know, because they wanted to, you know, cut down the tree, they wanted it in the full length, and they were particularly fairly big and fairly long trees, and they were doing it without, you know, machines, without, you know, big tractors, because they were in the forest, and they needed to get to the edge of the forest, and so they weren't, tearing up all the forests to get in and around. So they were having to carry these trees out, and they're, not huge trees, but fairly big, as well as cleaning off all the extra branches and all that stuff off to just leave the basic logs. And so the women were doing it, but it would take more women to do the same job as it would take women, just because they're generally weaker. So women were definitely seen to be, and even in the early days, before the war happens, farm working women and other women, sort of in their traditional roles, Hitler was very good with that, and so the Nazis were. But as the war is going on, they're definitely getting more into the defense industry, but as well as active military personnel. And I say that specifically in that way because they were taking over a lot of administrative jobs, in particular like the Luftwaffe. Now that's on the home front. And they were doing so in the U.S. and they were doing so in Britain and places like Russia as well. But directly as a uniformed Luftwaffe personnel, they were also flak helpers, working the flak guns. And working the flak guns is a combat role because you're out of doors while you're being bombed, and you're shooting up, shells up at the aircraft that explode and put shrapnel everywhere. And that shrapnel, as it comes out of the sky, is deadly. I mean, you're shooting up things that are coming down on top of you, are deadly. And if you notice, the flak helpers' helmets are sort of lightweight German helmet styles, but they're actually a little flared out, a little bigger, to give a little more, shall we say, shoulder protection, just from, whether it's falling debris from nearby buildings and they blow up and, there's debris going on. So it's not like to stop a high velocity penetration of a bullet, but to stop something that would crack a skull, so. But there were a lot of women that were out of doors, many were killed too, but that were wounded from, light flying, nails, pieces of wood, pieces of shrapnel, but trying to keep them protected. So that is an active combat role. Now everyone knew that, and it's still, women can do combat, in frontline combat, but they don't do it as well as men. And we get into a whole lot of cultural and other social issues going along with it. But so that they do move into an active participation in the combat role on the home front during World War II in Germany. And this is, even, with Hitler's views and the general Nazis' views. So Hitler sees the women as very capable, but he sees it partially as sort of, shall we say, traditional roles of women, but primarily in wanting to explode the German population, so wanting them to have lots of babies. And so he really wants to do that. And even, again, going back to the peacetime, let alone, wartime emergency conditions, because you have to examine the Nazi state in sort of two phases. One is sort of the 37 to 39 era, once they're really firmly in charge of what they ideally want to do. And then you can look at the sort of 42 through 45 of what they're sort of forced to do to try to fight the war. Once they realize that Barbarossa is, oh shit, we're stuck in Russia and things aren't going well, we've got to do something. And so that's basically in 42 that they start progressively, and it's only in 42 do they put Speer in charge of the armaments industry and really stop all civilian, and they do it in stages, but really start stopping civilian consumer production of goods and changing over to a total war economy. So, and obviously there's something of a transition period between those two sort of periods. And so you can look back at the idealistic Nazi state. You still have the women's version of the RAD, the Reich Arbeitsdienst, which is sort of, the after the Hitler Youth, what do you do next? Now, my understanding is that during the peacetime era, for the women it was voluntary. if they wanted to go into it. Where the men, it was mandatory. There are exceptions, but it's mostly mandatory for the men to go into it. The exceptions are mostly for schooling. You know, if you have the key intellectual background, and instead of going into to dig ditches, they want to put you to becoming a doctor or becoming an engineer or an architect or whatever. You know, they wanted to, if you're just going to be a gender studies major or something, they didn't really care if you wanted you to go to school. It wasn't just that you were going to go to college, but if you're really pushing the testing features, they wanted to get you into the key disciplines for certain educations. But if you weren't that, basically all men were going into the RAD, the labor service for a time before then being drafted into the army. Women weren't drafted into the army, but in peacetime or war, but they were drafted. If you were a single woman and didn't have children, you were basically forced to work in Germany once the war is going really strong. But in their ideal state, going into the women's RAD was more of a voluntary service. So, it isn't a clear-cut modern-day feminist or traditionalist idea of the role of women for them. Okay. Yeah, we'll do this. This was actually quite historical. This Swiss Confederation asked for guarantees, and Germany did give it to them. That is a historical event. Polish-Romanian alliance. Poles have announced the Romanians have... Okay, this is bad. This is bad. I hope these, whether they even pay attention to me. This is bad modding, people. And this isn't Total War bad modding levels, but this is bad modding. Why is Axis partner Romania? Now they've got in way too early, and leading up to this time, they're begging, pushing. They want to be part of France. Alliance with France, and secondarily with Britain. They send a diplomatic mission. Basically, I think it's the king that goes to France, asks for alliance with France. France goes, no, we can't do it. If somebody attacks you, whether they're starting to think Germany maybe. This is, I think, 36, 37. I'd have to look at my mod, but 36, 37. Romania is coming to France and going, please help us. We might be attacked from Germany, but remember, sort of at the start of this, Austria still isn't still an independent state. But they're really looking for the alliance for be defend against Soviet Union. And France is just going, no, we can't do it. Our population will not go to war because of the post World War I situation, all the losses, all the death in World War I. We're not going to go to war with the Soviet Union if they attack you, Romania. We like you, we love you, you're a wonderful country, and all this stuff, but no, we just can't go to war with the Soviet Union over Romania. Too much, and it's also too far away. It's not like, we're protecting Belgium along, sort of as a buffer zone, and we'll do an alliance with you or something close by. It's too far away, too much. We just can't do it. And then after that gets turned down, and I think they were already scheduled to go to London, but they go to London and beg for an alliance with Britain, and they would like it with both, but France was the superpower. That's what everyone thought. France was the superpower in the 1930s, and Britain was the super navy, but obviously a navy isn't really going to help Romania, because whether they can get through I mean, they're supposed to be allowed to get through, Dardanelles and the Bosphorus to get through the Turkey, but whether they could or they couldn't, it really isn't going to do too much. It might help a bit, a big British fleet sitting out here, but it isn't going to, really defend Romania, and sending in a few divisions or whatever, it really isn't going to do it. So Britain turns them down. And it's only after that, and then after the push by Hungary to get this part of Romania back, that then the Romanians finally decide, yeah, we've got to ally with Germany. Germany is not who we want to be allied with. Hitler has asked us before, back in 36, I believe it was. Again, I'd have to look at my mod. And Romania says no. So, yeah. And only then. Let's see what IKB has to say. One issue with Speer's production increase. He wanted bigger numbers of tanks on the books to impress Hitler, so more tank parts got put together as tanks, but less got sent out as spare parts to units fighting on the front. Interesting. I'll take a look at the video maybe. Wish you'd drop it like in the Discord server or something so I can check it out later a little easier. Because otherwise I have to go back into the stream and look for it. And it's not easy. So I don't know the sources. Speer... Oh, what the hell is this? Carpathian Ruthia. Really? Really? Already? This was actually sort of kind of a thing. But never really an independent. Okay, well, that's... I don't know that I like that either. Like I say, it was sort of kind of a thing, but I don't know. So I don't know your sources. But I do know that Speer was trying to work very heavily with Guderian as inspector of armored forces. And Speer really wanted to follow Guderian's lead once they started working together. So I'm not doubting the idea of how much, percent of spare parts going to front to take care of unit tanks, fighting in the front versus parts going into new tanks. I'm not disputing that, but I don't know if that is Panzerwaffe. Well, yeah, this is the Panzer arm. So I'm more disputing that it's just to please Hitler, because I do know he was really part of a, because there were different factions within the Nazi hierarchy, and if I remember correctly, Speer and Guderian got along really well, and Speer tried to streamline the systems to what Guderian thought. Okay, great, thanks. I'll take a look at that sometime, probably tomorrow or something after I sleep some. But so yeah, I'll take a look and see. But I know he was really trying to work with Guderian and trying to stop some of the, Ferdinand Porsche's let's build super tanks that are bigger than a city block kind of nuttiness that was going on. So yeah, okay. Let's come over here and production efficiency cap, construction speed. We'll do that first. Now, I've read Inside the Third Reich by Albert Speer many years ago. I was quite young. I still have it on my bookshelf over here, but and I do know it is an apologia. And I'm sort of using that not of things, and it definitely promotes Speer's post-war view of himself and his role in the Third Reich. I don't think he was trying to lie in major ways, but I think it's a combination of him trying to justify his actions, him trying to tell the story as a combination of as how he remembers it, because he writes it at least partially while he's in prison, and so he doesn't necessarily have access to all the records. Trying to, from his viewpoint, as well as, trying to explain to the world what Nazi Germany was and why a person that he thought of himself as a good person, because that's how he viewed himself, went down this dark hole. And he realizes, in the post-war world, that Nazi Germany was very dark. But how did he get tied up in that? And so there's, justifications within it. There's just his viewpoints, I think accurately at times, from the war. And his viewpoints as he's remembering it now some years later. So I don't take it as an authoritative source if somebody's coming up with period, not post-war records, post-war similar autobiographies or, other sorts of works written sort of post-war from interviews of people and things like that. But from period documents or period, documents including private letters and other things like that. And so I'll go with the private letters and other period research, including things that Speer may have written during the war. And, if you're writing a bunch of letters, like sending a bunch of emails, you're going to forget some of them and whatnot years later. So, so I'm not, I won't go that it's authoritative, but I do sort of take it as something of what, Speer sees it. So that partly informs me of, and he very much goes into, and I can't remember all the details because it's been more than probably 30 years since I've really read the book. And a lot of you aren't that old. So, but he really goes into some of the sort of infightings in the different factions, and sometimes the change of people in the different factions that were fighting in the hierarchy of the Third Reich. Who was friends with who was just trying to undermine the other guy, even if it hurt the war effort and things. There's a lot of that going on in Nazi Germany. And so that can make a lot of difference on what gets done and how that's working on. Like a good example, as the war is going on, somewhere, I think it was like in 44 or 43 or something, maybe as early as 43, but at some point there's a push, and I forget who it was by, but was to ban horse racing in Germany so that all the horses would be used for the front, or other, war needs. Well, there's a class of people called, and I'm sure if you're a proper German speaker, I'm butchering it, Alterkameraden, old comrades of Hitler. These are guys from the beer hall putsch days that Hitler sort of knows and remembers. And some of them are sort of buddies with Hitler. They're not remaining buddies in the sense that they're really hanging out at the Berghof, much later on. But they were sort of friends from the early days. Well, Weber, Christian Weber. He is sort of the guy who he's an SS, basically an SS general. He sort of runs Munich. Well, he loves horse racing. Puts on the Brown Derby every year, and it's a horse racing day, and also puts on the Fun Time Munich at the same basic time. Fun Time Munich Nazi Festival. You see it with all the parades and the, you know, nighttime beer parties and all that stuff. And he puts that on. He's, the party guy of the Nazis. Well, he sort of complains. And although the horse racing ban goes in, it's banned everywhere but Munich. So Munich, they keep the horse racing stables because he sort of appeals to Hitler, because he has that direct access and gets an exemption throughout to the end of, basically the end of the war, though I'm sure by 45 there no one's doing any horse racing, but he sort of gets that going on. So there's all this factional stuff going on that is counterproductive to the war effort, and it's not necessarily like ideological, like, well, the real enemy, we've got to get rid of the real enemy. Yeah, sure, those Russians out there with machine guns and tanks are killing us, but the real enemy are those vampiric Jews that are sucking the lifeblood out of good Aryans. We got to eliminate them, and if we can eliminate them, even if we lose the war, Germany will come back stronger if there's no more damn Jews. That's how they're thinking. So that's why they make bad military decisions to kill off spend all those resources killing off the Jews, because they think of them as the real enemy, and the secondary enemy are the Bolsheviks, and the third enemy are sort of the Western powers, Britain and America and whatnot, third level enemies. And so they make what we see from a war fighting standpoint bad decision of doing the final solution. So that's just a bad decision. Slave labor is not effective labor. It just isn't. But it is still a working labor. It's not as effective as, a proper paid voluntary labor source. And slave labor is worse than conscripted labor at it. It's not good. But they don't even use, they do to some degree, because you should watch at least once. I don't want to watch it again. But Schindler's List is an important movie and talks about the slave labor that the Nazis use. It is not the best type of labor to ever use. I'm just talking about it as effectiveness, not morally. It's, of course, abhorrent and wrong. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about how effective it works. But they don't even effectively try to use the Jews in slave labor. They want to eliminate them while they can, while the war is going on. So they make a really bad military decision to do all that effort to eliminate the Jews. Okay, that's done because of ideology. But they make other decisions like, hey, yeah, you get to run your horse races and put all that resources. And remember, Germany is focused heavily on literal horsepower in its army, where the U.S., U.S., they can run all the horse races they want in America, because horse races don't take up rubber, because they limit gasoline, they ration gasoline in America, not because they don't have enough gas. They got plenty of gas, but they don't have enough rubber for the tires in the cars. And it's easier to ration the gas than it is to try to ration the tires. So they ration the gasoline so they don't use up too much rubber. And they stopped making all domestic, because there are 1941 models of car, or 1942 models of cars, but my parents are old car collectors, so I know some of this. There are 1942 models of cars, but remember, 1942 cars are designed in 1941 and are started to put into production in late 1941, and so are just barely get started making, and they're made to a few months into the war, and then they all stop. So a 42 car is model car is a very rare car for a collector's thing. So they stop all new car production, and so tires only are useful if you have gasoline to drive. It's a civilian market, so probably more than half of America's cars get put up on blocks because they actually decide not to drive the car. Gasoline is, one, expensive, two, it's rationed, so it's better to put the car up on blocks and turn your tires in to save the nation. So probably about half the cars are stopped being used during the war in America. But horse racing, hey, what's that, you can just go to the horse track. And of course, in a lot of American cities, they do have trolley services and similar sorts of things to get to there. So that's never a thing not to do. And so you can always do that. And it's not a question for, can we afford to do this or not? Yeah, of course we can afford to do this. But, and what does related to the horses, when I studied the basic law of one of the key elements of Nazi Germany, was related to horses when I studied the basic law. Yeah, they did arbitrarily apply the law. The Nazi judges are very despicable people for many reasons. And Christian Weber was actually a very corrupt individual as well. Bribes and other things he was willing to take. So they very much did that as well, but it's sort of the various infightings, the various another thing is like that continues into the war is Alaric porcelain, Alaric porcelain, a very old, it goes back to at least the 18th century, maybe a bit earlier, porcelain manufactured in Germany. Well, the reason it continues is because the SS bought it. Oh, as a Kentuckian, I know a lot about horses. And yes. Oh, Ari, now that you're back, what's this about China always losing to Japan and has no chance? So yeah, so the Nazis, you have to take that into account. You have to take into, like I was saying, SS Himmler buys Alaric porcelain, moves, and it's in the area, but moves the facility to the Dachau, not to the Dachau prison camp, but to Dachau. And if you really understand Dachau, it's a huge complex that definitely has a concentration camp things going on there, but there's also training camps, production, and some of that production is done by slave labor, various things, the women's SS training camp was at Dachau, bunch of, it was a big multi-complex. One of the things was, and to the best of my knowledge, they did not use slave labor, it was hired labor of their higher level artisans hired, but Alaric porcelain for quite some time into the war continues into production. Now, porcelain is probably not using any real key resources for German war production, and they're not using huge numbers of laborers. It's high quality, high end porcelain, and very collectible from pre-Nazi period as well. But sort of collectors of Nazi things also collect the Nazi era stuff, and most of it isn't. I mean, it has an SS stamp on the bottom if it's from the Nazi era, but most of it isn't SS topics. It's just the traditional German porcelain kind of stuff going on. So you get a lot of these strange, somewhat arbitrary at times, things going on in Nazi Germany that are counterproductive to the war effort and are not specifically as part of their ideology, because that's one thing I've come to understand. I'm still struggling with understanding National Socialism. National Socialism has almost nothing to do with fascism. It is not fascism. It is fascistic in that it's state control of things, but it would be better described as totalitarianistic, as opposed to, or totalitarianism, and that fascism is also a flavor of totalitarianism, but it's not fascism. It's different, and it isn't just fascism with racism added. No, it's a different philosophy than fascism, and different economic practices and similar sorts of things. So I'm still trying to understand the struggles, understanding just what National Socialism core ideology is. And so I've come to understand the real enemy was the Jews. It wasn't these other nations. And so that was more important to kill them off than it was to win a war on the battlefield. Now, of course, they thought they were also going to win the war on the battlefield too when they started the Holocaust. They thought they were going to get both things, as opposed to making from their viewpoint, the rational thing of first fighting the war with the Soviets and winning that, and then doing the Holocaust. But even once they realize how bad things are, they could have easily moved that labor into other things than to rushing the killing off of more people. Well, on that happy, vibrant note, I think we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos, even though this is somewhat of a depressing topic at this time. And of course, I'd love to hear your comments, corrections. I'm sure I'm getting some details wrong on this. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.